In the last class, we discussed the restoration. I'll go for a recap. The first one, this is the Anglo-Saxon, an age that was developed by the medieval writers who used to talk about the medieval romances, the chivalric romances. A knight with a spade sword, with a split rope, saving a girl, saving a damsel. This became very important feature in this age, that was the age of Chaucer. You can also see that the development of the English culture, English literature, and the language. So, before you go for this thing, I will tell you about the repeatedly asked question in the NET examination that the Chinese English has been developed from. So, it has been developed from East Midland dialect. Once Chaucer, the father of English, the grandfather of English novel, when he died, this became the parallel. Why? Because of two regular wars. The first war was 100 Years' War fought between England and France, 1338 to 1453. Remember this date? This is 1338 to 1453. And the another was War of Roses, 30 Years' War. So this era, this 150 years, this era was regularly being disturbed because of the wars, could not produce available literature. Now, we can say that in exception we have few books, like Bodily Arthur we have, Utopia we have, and Praise of Fall we have. Still, with the birth of Edmund Spencer in 1552 and Queen Elizabeth to the throne 1558, this marked the new era in literature. This era is called Elizabethan Age. It became one of the best age, also called the Golden Age. Now, what you have to remember for the examination point of view, that there are two golden ages in literature. Number one, the Elizabethan age, and number two is Victorian age. Now, when we call the golden ages, which one can be called the truly, or which one can be called that the accurately it was the real golden age? Simply, Elizabethan age is the real golden age. Because if you go for a detailed study, and if you want to know about the literature age, you read the detail and you try, you will never be able to find any story where the protagonist or anyone is suffering from poverty. In Victorian age, you will find a lot of examples in Dickens, in Hardy, in many other books where the characters are poor, unemployed, and suffering from poverty. So in that sense, Elizabethan age becomes the real golden age. While after 1603, the death of Queen Elizabeth, King James I became the king and started ruling. This 1603 to 1620 timing is called Jacobean period. This was a fruitful era while the Spanish treasury of Thomas Stade was ruling in this culture, and the maximum plays of Jacobians are reflecting the macabre plays. They have bloodshed, and they can be put under one category called revenge tragedy. After the death of King James I 1620, in 1625, Charles I became the king. Again, one of the chronicle kings. He used to enjoy a lot. He used to throw lavish parties, giving lavish gifts to his lords. He became an object of anger in the public's eye. With the help of Cromwell and with having the ministers, the personal spokespersons like Milton, they public executed Charles I in 1649. After execution of Charles I, the first ever democracy of the world, the first ever democracy of England appeared in 1649. Here, this was the Parliament of the Saints, as maximum parliamentarians, maximum ministers were Puritan. So this became the Parliament of the Saints, as it was won by the power. It was also called Iron Government. It was also called the first democratic government. Though this did not last long, because from 1649 to 1660, being the Puritan government, they did they emphasized a lot of rules, dictums, which was the Puritan dictums, and they created havoc, kind of launching a lot of rules which were not being followed by the public. For example, they prohibited the use of wine. So use of wine is a kind of medicine in England where the temperature goes below zero. So they prohibited this. They wanted them to be a religious person. Public did not like this, and public invited son of Charles II, to take the seat back in 1660. Now this is called Restoration Age. Charles II landed with a huge army, killed many of the Puritans, including Milton would have been killed, as I correct myself. Milton escaped, and many of the Puritans on the name of Act of Amnesty. Milton, he was the main figure who launched this rebellion against the kingship, escaped following this Act of Amnesty. Many of them were pardoned, and 2 books of Milton were burned publicly. After coming to the throne, Charles II started following rules and regulations which his father did not, and became an established king. But in 1685, before 1685, when it was almost sure that Charles I's brother, James II, will be the next king. Remember this thing, he was an over Catholic. Charles II himself was a Catholic. public did not want James II to be the next king. So the public brought exclusion bill in the parliament. Public did not want him to be the king, and they brought exclusion bill in the parliament. To avoid this bill being presented in the parliament, Charles II dissolved the parliament. In 1685, Charles II